And this is where I get into what I really do. Because when I work with people in any extent, what I'm really showing you is the magic that lives in you. And that can sound very cheesy, very corny, but hey man, cliches are cliches for a reason. The truth is the truth. We're all magical people, beings, creatures, entities, whatever you want to call us. It's Aquarius season, remember that. Aquarians tend to be alien-like, God-like. Depends on who you're asking. Aquarius is my descendant, which I reference as a shadow placement. That's one of those subconscious parts. And what tends to happen with people and their descendant is that we are not able to see ourselves in that light. We are able to see that reflection in others. And for a lot of people who are not familiar with triggers and being set off in a way by someone, being slightly annoyed by certain people and you don't know why, a lot of the time it tends to be because they are like you in ways that you don't see. And they tend to be like you in the ways that you reject about yourself. Around the time that I was getting into this whole unmasking thing with myself, I was able to see this bird's eye view of people and what was holding them back. I just knew that if people were able to accept who they really were, they would be so much happier. Of course, it took me about 2 years to realize that about myself. Because I mean, in theory, yes, that's true. But in practice, what does that really mean? Like, sure, if I accept all parts of me, I'll be much happier. But in practice, that means every time I get this funny feeling in my stomach, in my head, in my throat, when I don't want to say what I really want to say, when I feel guilty, when I hear these negative thoughts about myself, all those times are times when we need to pay attention to ourselves. But what actually happens and tends to happen with most people in life is when we feel those uncomfortable feelings, we push them down further, and deeper and deeper. If you know, Pluto moved into Aquarius, and that means it moved out of the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is in my 6th house, which is my work house, which means that Pluto, that carries the weight of transformation, of power, and of dark and subconscious themes, was chilling in my 6th house of work and every day. The last place I worked at, I saw something that made me very jealous. And I did not know yet the feeling of jealousy inside of me. I suppressed that and those parts, those energies and those feelings further and further down. So I had no awareness of what jealousy felt like in my body at all. And so I started to reflect on these relationships and realized, oh my God, this is what jealousy looks like in me. So I have been a work troll. And probably in more ways than I want to admit. I'm actually excited to share my astrology playlists for every astrological season. Tried to cover all my bases with all of the music providers. Use it how you will to discover new music. Just go through the playlist and add it wherever you listen to music. What I do know is music is essential. And personally, I do think just like magic and power, creation is something that we all have access to. It's just a matter of remembering that part of you. Children are the best creators. Their imagination gives them access to so many worlds. And it's unfortunate that a lot of us grow up and grow out of that. We don't have to grow out of that. We're taught to, but we don't have to, and we really shouldn't. That's where a lot of our power is, in the little child version of us. And I'm submitting this video as an experiment. Aquarius is the energy of timeline jumping. If you look in the back there, you can see those circles are crowns that I created last year. And I used them to conjure up power inside of me, focusing on certain areas and parts of my life. That one in the middle there, it was to remind me to take care of myself, because if you know anything about Cancer is the mother, and we tend to have a mothering energy where we want to take care of everyone but ourselves. That one right there is my higher self crown. I made it and charged it under the Taurus new moon. And Taurus is a sign that's all about the senses. I made that higher self crown to be able to communicate with the highest version of me. Well, when I made that crown, about 2 weeks later, in a guided meditation, I met the higher version of me. And funny enough, she kind of looked like this. Her hair was like this. She had like this part down though. Yeah. I'm going to represent her a little bit better. She had a hue. She was like kind of blue, but see-through. She embraced me and then put me back into my own place and gave us some boundaries. And she let me know that we're meant to be separate so that I can live this life here on earth, and she can be someone who sees from a bird's eye view what's going on and lets me know when it's time to go ahead and do things like this. After our embrace and our separation, I noticed that there was still a part of her robe. Her clothing was like liquid light, and it was draped over me on my arm and on my head. So I had a part of her with me, and it remained with me. And it will remain with me. Because after that, we just got closer and closer until I realized like we were vibing all the time. And can you believe that that part of me, my higher self, she's connected to the Aquarius part of me, my descendant, that shadow that I could only see in other people. And I would think, they're really unique. They're really rebellious. It's kind of trend-setting. It's a bit on the deep end though. I don't know if I'd go that far. And different things like that. Like, wow, they're really motivated to change the world. There were things that I could see in other people, and I had no idea that there might be people who would see that in me. Because I wasn't seeing it in me. I am like that. And so when I started to accept that part of me, I started to hear from that part of me more. And that's why I'm making this video, because that part of me showed me this and said, are you ready? It's time. And I panicked and I ran away. But then I was reminded, hey, this is what you do. So you can't run away. You need to face your fear. And what was my fear? It was shame. I was ashamed of my story, starting out with literally being fired. Why I wanted to start my business, literally, it felt like it was out of spite. But it really came from a deeper place of me wanting to connect and create a greater change in people that I knew was possible, but I knew couldn't be done under the time constraints that I had, and also in the way that I was being encouraged to meet people, because literally I'm encouraged to sell you something, right? Time that I was spending with these clients before I was let go was in 2021, right? This is right after 2020 and what happened in 2020. So there were a lot of feelings that people were carrying. And yes, I identify as an intuitive, but I feel like in order to be an intuitive, you tend to be an empath, which means that you can feel people's feelings. And that's something that turning 30 taught me how to relax on and turn on and turn down a bit, because sometimes being the person that takes on people's feelings just because you can feel them isn't the most healthy. And what are you going to do when there are a lot of people around you and you're feeling everyone's feelings? How do you look? How do you feel? I learned how to relax on that a bit, but it still is a superpower. And it's a great thing to be able to do because you're able to help people. So in 2021, I was meeting with a lot of people who were experiencing a lot of change and who were very scared and very lost. And there were a lot of moments where I felt misaligned, trying to sell them something when I knew they just needed to decompress and hear themselves and receive themselves and accept themselves. Sometimes, depending on the day and the schedule and what was going on, I could spend a little extra time with people and allow them to do that. And then there were times when it went so well, I felt so fulfilled that I kept pushing to give people that service. And I just realized I'm here to do deeper things with people. I'm here not to just tell you what colors and what shape and what fabric would be ideal for whatever you're dressing up to go to. I'm here to tell you there's a reason why you're picking the clothes that you're picking, and there's a reason why when you look in the mirror, you feel the way that you do about it. Let's look at that. Before we try to express ourselves when we don't know ourselves, and the self that we do know we don't love, we actually hate, let's not try to dress that up and hide it and pretend that we're okay. Why don't we actually dig into that and get working on that so that you can feel freer and be who you're meant to be? And also, do you know that there are people waiting on you to be who you're meant to be? I'm continuing to learn that there are people who want me to be this weird ass version of me. Oopsie. That's me. I'm tired of hiding being weird like that. That's what I do for people. It's been an hour. It's time for me to stop. The other things that I want to do is create a community. There's something that happens to me during every astrological season, which literally means in Aquarius season, around this time, I am experiencing this version of me. In Capricorn season, I experienced that version of me. She's a boss. I love her. She's hilarious. So shady though. Oh my God. So shady. But I love her because she lets me get things done. I really appreciate that version of me. When Pisces season comes around, I already know who's coming through, and we're going to have a different experience. I want to allow people the space to breathe into those versions of themselves. Also to find like-minded people who are having the same or similar experiences that can validate that they are not crazy. And we can just like vibe together, because one of the best things that I experienced on this journey to this version of me was a reflection in someone else that really helped me feel way less alone. And so in line with Aquarius season, that's Find Your Tribe season. I want to create that community for people to find their tribe. Find the tribe in yourself and see the reflection of that out externally amongst everyone else. I also want to host workshops because I am a designer and stylist and creative, and so I used my skills to help me conceptualize these parts of me that were in the dark that I couldn't see. And so I used mood boards because I loved making mood boards. So I created birth chart mood boards for every part of me that sits in all 12 houses. It was really fun, and music was a big inspiration for that. And there are a ton of other things and other ideas that I have for this year coming up. Let's discover ourselves together. It's actually so much more fun than it is scary.